In this lesson, we're going to explore estimating through the millions place. Now let's take a look at this problem. During 2006 and 2007, the Castillo de San Marcos National Monument in St. Augustine welcomed 1,078,001 visitors. A website reported that about 1 million people visited the park during those 2 years. Was the estimate reasonable? An estimate tells you about how many or about how much. It is close to an exact amount, and you can round a number to find an estimate. So we're going to round this number, 1,078,001, to the nearest million. And the first way we're going to look at it is by using a number line. Now if I look at my number line here, I have 1 million on one end and 2 million on the other end, because my value is between 1 million and 2 million. And I want to put it on the number line to see what the closest million is. Now first I'm going to look and see what the increments are on my number line. I have a million, I have 1,500,000, and then I have 2 million. Now I see these longer lines in between, and so I'm thinking that this is going to be 1 million, 1,100,000, 1,200,000, 1,300,000, 1,400,000, 1,500,000. Yep, that works. So now I have to look at my number and see where it would go. Now 1,078,000 is less than 1,100,000. So my number is going to be somewhere between 1 million and 1,100,000. So somewhere in here. I'm going to grab my point here and I'm going to drag it over here. Now let's see, where is it going to go in between here? If this is 1 million and this, let me label this here so I know that that's 1,100,000 right here on this line. So this must mean this is 1 million, 1,010,000, 1,020,000, 1,030,000, 1,040,000, 1,050,000, 1,060,000, 1,070,000, 1,080,000. Well, my number is between 1,070,000 and 1,080,000. So I'm going to take my point and I'm going to drag it right about here. That point shows where 1,078,001 would go on my number line. Now I have to ask myself, what is the nearest million? Well, it's definitely a lot closer to 1 million than 2 million, so I would say that the estimate was reasonable, that there were about 1 million people visiting the park. Now that was the first way to do an estimate. Now let's look at another way. We can use place value. Since we're rounding to the millions place, I'm going to underline the millions place. And then I'm going to ask myself I'm going to look at the thousands place and I'm going to ask myself, is that 5 or more? If so, I need to round up. If not, I'm going to keep my number the same. And it's not, it's a 0. So I am going to say that I can round this number to 1 million. So that estimate was reasonable. Now let's take a look at something else. Sometimes in math we use an estimate, but sometimes we need to find an exact amount. Not all problems require exact amounts. You may use an estimate when you do not need an exact amount, when an exact amount cannot be counted or measured, or the exact amount is likely to change. Now in the book report below, underline the words or phrases that indicate an estimate and circle those that are exact amounts. So let's read through it one time, and then we'll go back through and underline the estimates and circle the exact amounts. The Castillo de San Marcos was built out of about 150 million pounds of coquina. The coquina was formed into between 400,000 and 500,000 blocks. The walls of the fort vary from about 16 to 19 feet thick at the base to about 9 feet thick at the top. The fort is open from 8:45 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. every day except December 25th. Now, did you notice any estimates and exact amounts as we were reading through that? Let's go back through and underline now all the estimates that we found. The Castillo de San Marcos was built out of about 150 million pounds of coquina. Since we see the word about there, that means that it's not exact, it's an estimate, so we can underline that one. The coquina was formed into between 400,000 and 500,000 blocks. Since we don't have an exact amount, we're going to underline this too, because it's some value between 400,000 and 500,000. And the walls of the fort vary from about 16 to 19 feet thick at the base to about 9 feet thick at the top. Again, those are more estimates, and we know that because of the keyword about. The fort is open from 8:45 a.m. to 5:15 p.m. Well, that's an exact time, and so we're going to circle those because those are exact amounts of when the fort opens and when it closes. So that's a review of finding estimates and when it's appropriate to find an exact amount. Now you're going to try some practice problems, and if you need to review this lesson, just come on back and watch it again.